All right, so will this parabola ever intersect the line f of x equals 9? If this is a calculator problem, your life can be nice and simple. We want to know if this equation, negative 2x squared plus 5x plus 4, ever equals or ever hits 9. So to get a visual of this, if you graph that, we can get an answer right away. There's my parabola, opens down, there's 9. You can see that those two don't intersect, so the answer right away is no. Now, that would be fantastic, but what happens if I take your calculator away? What are the ways that we can actually prove this? Okay, so we can use what we know about the vertex. Now, there's a little bit of, the vertex problem is a little difficult because of the math involved. So let's find this vertex. Okay, so in order to find the vertex, it's x equals the opposite of b over 2a. All right, so the opposite of b is going to be negative 5. 2 times a is going to be 2 times negative 2. So I will get negative 5 over negative 4, or 5/4. That's my x value. In order to find y, I have to plug 5/4 back in for x. So negative 2 times 5/4 squared plus 5 times 5/4 plus 4. Yes, you have to be able to work with fractions. Okay, if I square 5/4, I'm going to get 25 over 16. You just square the top and square the bottom. If I multiply these, 5 times 5 is 25 over 4 plus 4. Okay, if I multiply these, I'll get negative 50 over 16 plus 25 over 4 plus 4. Okay, we'll keep going. I can reduce this fraction, so that gives me negative 25 over 8 plus 25 over 4 plus 4. If I want to add all these together, we need a common denominator. My common denominator is 8. Okay, so the first fraction doesn't change. That's negative 25. The second fraction, I have to multiply top and bottom by 2, so I'll get 50. My third fraction, I have to multiply top and bottom by 8. I'll get 32. And when I add them all together, I would get 25, that should be 57 over 8. Right? That's 25, that's 55, 57 over 8. Now, that's my y value. That's the one I'm interested in. What is this as a mixed number? 8 goes into 57 how many times? 7 with 1 left over. That's 7 1/8, right? Okay. So my vertex, the highest my vertex goes is 7 1/8. So wherever that vertex is, the height from here to here is 7 1/8. And I drew that it opens down. Well, how do I know that it opens down? Well, if we look up here, because of that negative, this graph opens down. The other line that comes in is at 9, which is above 7 1/8. So because this is at 9 and the other vertex was at 7 1/8, those things will not intersect. So we can use what we know about the vertices and the direction of opening to help us figure that out. Now, people understand that logically really well, but it's a lot of hard work, especially when you're working with fractions. So is there another way? And the answer is yes. So let me show you that way. So your function is negative 2x squared plus 5x plus 4. And you want to know, does it equal f of x equals 9? Well, f of x is a fancy way of writing 9, or y. So I can just plug that in for y. 9 equals negative 2x squared plus 5x plus 4. Now you can't do anything with these functions unless they're in standard form. So you got to get rid of that 9. So I'm going to subtract 9 to both sides. So now it's 0 equals negative 2x squared plus 5x. And then this becomes minus 5. So the idea here is if this equation hits 9, that's the same as this equation hitting 0. Well, because it's going to be hitting 0, we can use the discriminant to figure it out if it actually hits it. So now all I have to do is b squared minus 4ac. 5 squared is 25 minus 4 times a, which is negative 2, times c, which is negative 5. This gives me 25 minus, that's 8. 8 times 5 is 40. And when you subtract them, you get negative 15. That's your discriminant. If you notice, because it's negative, that means it would have 2 imaginary solutions. Because it's imaginary, what they're saying is that graph doesn't actually hit the x-axis. And because this graph doesn't hit the x-axis, that's exactly the same as saying this graph will not hit f of x equals 9. So because this thing was negative, we can say no as an answer. Let's say your number was positive. Instead of negative 15, let's say it was 20. If you got a discriminant of 20 because it's positive, that would mean 2 real solutions. And if it has 2 real solutions, that means yes, in fact, it would have hit it. Okay, what's your other option? What happens if you got 0 as a discriminant? That means you have a double root. If you got a double root, that means it does hit it. So you can still say yes, it would hit it. Okay. So going back to my calculator, let me just kind of show you one thing and then I'll end it there. We wanted to know if negative 2x squared plus 5x plus 4 ever hit 9. And that's what we got. We got it. That's no. Okay? So if you look at my function, if I subtracted 9 from both sides, then I would get this. Now let me show you that one. I'll put that in y3. Negative 2x squared plus 5x minus 5. So the original question is, does this graph hit y equals 9? And when you set it up, then what we're trying to find is, does this graph hit the x-axis? They actually mean the same exact thing for this problem. Okay, hopefully that helped. You can either use the discriminant or you can use the vertex to help you guys answer this question.